I have a confession to make. I have been an active member of the emergency preparedness community for over 10 years, and I have been holding back. While I have watched everyone out there fighting tooth and nail over bags of rice and beans at Costco, I have been quietly stocking 10 specific foods that the vast majority of preppers completely overlook. Honestly, I have kept these items hidden even from my closest prepper friends because they are that valuable, and I did not want the secret to get out. But the world is getting too volatile to keep this to myself anymore. The fourth item on this list is sitting in the snack aisle right now for pennies, yet it is actually a survival grain that lasts indefinitely. And when we get to number 10, trust me when I reveal this one, you are going to kick yourself for not thinking of it sooner because it is the ultimate survival superfood that ancient warriors used as currency. Here is the thing about the modern prepping world that nobody talks about. Everyone is reading the exact same blogs, watching the exact same YouTube channels, and stocking the exact same stuff. Rice, beans, and canned vegetables. We all know the drill. However, I learned something crucial 3 years ago during a massive supply chain nightmare. You know what vanished from the shelves first? All of that standard prepper food everyone keeps talking about. White rice was gone in hours. Canned beans were wiped out immediately. But you know what was still sitting there fully stocked? The 10 foods I am about to share with you. These are the items that will keep you thriving while everyone else is just barely surviving. Before we dive in, if you want to be ahead of the curve, make sure you are paying close attention. This information could save you thousands of dollars and keep your family fed when everyone else is scrambling. Let us start with something that sounds incredibly boring, but is absolute gold, which is bouillon cubes. Now, I know exactly what you were thinking. You think that is just salt and fake flavor. But hear me out. I was talking to a supply chain manager last month, a guy who has been in the food distribution business for 20 years. He told me something that made my jaw drop. During the supply disruptions of 2024, you know what product had zero shortage issues? Bouillon cubes. Zero. Here is why this matters significantly. Recent research from Food Science Quarterly shows that these little flavor bombs maintain 92% of their potency, even after 2 years of storage. But here's the real kicker. One single cube packs the same nutritional punch as 2 cups of broth, but takes up basically no space in your pantry. Think about the psychological aspect. When you're living off rice and beans for weeks on end, do you know what is going to kill your morale first? It's not the hunger, it's the bland, repetitive taste. But if you drop one bouillon cube into that rice, suddenly it's restaurant quality. I personally stock about 500 cubes in my hidden pantry. It cost me less than $30. That's 500 meals transformed from cardboard to comfort food. Here is a pro tip that changed my prepping game. Store them with a silica gel packet. You know those little packets you find in shoe boxes? Those keep moisture away and extend the shelf life even further. But here is what most preppers miss. These are not just for flavor. In a true survival situation, that concentrated sodium and mineral content acts as electrolyte replacement. That prevents dehydration. The United States military figured this out decades ago. There's a reason bouillon is in every single MRE. Now, here is where things get interesting with the second item, which is dried seaweed. I'm not asking you to eat kelp smoothies, so stay with me here. Japanese researchers made headlines in 2024 with a discovery that blew my mind. They found intact dried seaweed in 1,000-year-old temple storage jars. You heard that right, 1,000 years. And get this, when they tested the nutritional profile, it was still impressive. But here is what nobody in the prepping community talks about. A recent study at Tohoku University revealed that just one sheet of nori contains more iodine than most people consume in an entire week. Iodine is critical for your thyroid, which controls basically everything your body does, from energy regulation to temperature control. Let me share a quick story to illustrate this. Last winter, my neighbor, a fellow prepper who is stocked to the teeth with all the usual stuff, came down with serious fatigue issues during a 2-week power outage. The doctor later told him it was an iodine deficiency. Meanwhile, my family was fine. Why? Because I had been rotating dried seaweed into our meals for months. Here's the genius part. Most preppers don't even look at this stuff, which means it's always in stock.
I walked into an Asian market last week and there were fully stocked shelves of every type you could imagine. Nori, wakame, and dulse each bring unique benefits. Nori packs crazy amounts of protein. Wakame is loaded with magnesium, which is essential for energy and mood. And dulse is your natural salt alternative. My method is dead simple. I crumble one sheet of nori into my rice while it is cooking, and that is it. It adds this subtle, rich flavor that honestly makes your stockpile food taste gourmet. The third item is going to sound weird, but trust me on this one. It is potato flour. I am not talking about potato flakes or instant mash, but actual potato flour. Before you ignore this, let me tell you why this might be the smartest prep food nobody is talking about. I stumbled across this by accident. I was browsing a small ethnic grocery store last year and saw these bags of potato flour just sitting there, covered in dust. Nobody was buying them, so I did some digging. Turns out, potato flour is what old school Europeans used to survive entire winters, and there is a reason it works. First off, consider the shelf life. When stored in an airtight container, this stuff lasts up to 10 years. Compare that to regular all-purpose flour, which starts going rancid after about 8 months. But here's where it gets really interesting. Potato flour is naturally gluten-free, which means if you or someone in your family has celiac disease or gluten sensitivity, this becomes absolutely critical. During a collapse scenario, do you think stores are going to have gluten-free options? Not a chance. And nutritionally, it is a beast. It is high in resistant starch. That is the stuff that feeds good gut bacteria and actually helps you feel full longer. When you are rationing food, that feeling of fullness is psychological gold. Number 4 is a secret I have guarded jealously, but it is time to share it. It is popcorn kernels. And no, I'm not talking about movie night. I'm talking about unpopped, raw popcorn kernels as a survival grain source. Most preppers buy huge bags of cornmeal that go rancid in a year or two because the oils are exposed to air. But popcorn kernels, they have a hard outer shell that protects the nutrients inside for decades. I'm talking about a shelf life of indefinitely if kept dry. But here's the trick that makes this item genius. You do not just pop them. You can run these kernels through a simple hand grinder or a grain mill, and boom, you have fresh, nutritious cornmeal. You can make polenta, grits, cornbread, or tortillas. I discovered this during a blizzard 3 years ago when we ran out of bread. I ground up some popcorn kernels I had sitting in the pantry for 5 years, made cornbread in a cast iron skillet, and it was the best thing I had tasted in months. It is significantly cheaper than buying survival corn from prepper websites, and it's available at every grocery store in the country. Plus, in a high-stress situation, actually popping it as a snack is a massive morale booster for children. It's a dual-purpose survival superfood hiding in the snack aisle. I keep 50 pounds of this in my basement in Mylar bags. It cost me peanuts, literally, and it provides a carbohydrate security blanket that will outlast almost anything else I own. Number 5 is where I'm going to lose some of my prepper credibility, but I don't care. I'm talking about Asian instant noodle blocks. And no, I'm not talking about those 25-cent ramen packs from Walmart. I'm talking about the legitimate instant noodle blocks you find at Asian grocery stores. Let me tell you a story that changed my entire prepping philosophy. 2 years ago, I was doing a 30-day test run of my food stockpile. I was actually eating what I had stored to see if I could really survive on it. By day 12, I was so sick of rice and beans that I almost gave up. My wife was getting cranky and the kids were complaining. Then I remembered these instant noodle blocks I had grabbed from an Asian market. It was a total game changer. Here's what makes these different from regular ramen. First, the noodle quality is actually real. We are talking wheat-based, sometimes egg-based noodles that have actual nutrition. Some varieties pack 8 or 10 grams of protein per serving. But the real magic is in the seasoning packets. These are not just MSG and salt. We are talking about complex spice blends, dried vegetables, real mushroom powder, and genuine soup bases. I'm talking flavors like tom yum, laksa, miso, and kimchi. You might think it is unhealthy, and you are right, but here's what those hardcore preppers don't understand about human psychology. In a real emergency, I'm talking weeks of eating the same thing, morale matters more than you think.
A 2023 study from Johns Hopkins found that food monotony during extended emergencies contributed significantly to decision fatigue and decreased problem-solving abilities. Translation: boring food makes you stupid when you need to be smart most. Number 6 is something that has been hiding in plain sight this whole time, which is canned coconut milk. I am not talking about coconut water or the beverage stuff. I am talking about the thick, full-fat canned coconut milk you find in the Asian or international aisle. Here is why this is absolutely brilliant and why I have 50 cans hidden in my stockpile. First, consider the fat content. In a survival situation, fat is king. Your body needs it for energy, for absorbing vitamins, for keeping warm, and for brain function. Most prepper foods are seriously lacking in fat. Rice has zero fat. Beans have barely any. Freeze-dried meals strip most of the fat out to extend shelf life. But 1 can of coconut milk contains 50 grams of healthy fats. That is rocket fuel for your body. I learned this lesson the hard way during a winter camping trip that went south. We were eating all our survival food, rice, beans, and the works. But after 3 days in the cold, we were all exhausted, freezing, and could not think straight. My buddy, who does long-distance hiking, pulled out a can of coconut milk, heated it up with some rice, and within an hour, we all felt human again. The fat content literally saved us. But here's what makes this really next level. Coconut milk is incredibly versatile. You can use it in rice dishes to make them creamy and filling. You can add it to soups to boost calories. Number 7 is an industrial byproduct that is actually a nutritional miracle. I am talking about Blackstrap molasses. Most preppers stock sugar or honey. Sugar provides empty calories, and honey is great but expensive. Blackstrap molasses, however, is what remains after the sugar has been extracted, meaning it is where all the minerals go. 1 tablespoon of blackstrap molasses contains 20% of your daily calcium, 10% of your daily magnesium, and 20% of your daily iron. In a collapsed scenario where fresh leafy greens and red meat are scarce, anemia and mineral deficiencies will kill you just as fast as starvation. During the Great Depression, this was a staple for a reason. It is dense, it is shelf-stable for years if kept sealed, and it turns a simple bowl of oatmeal or rice mush into a mineral-fortified meal. I use it to sweeten coffee, I bake with it, and honestly, if I'm feeling low energy, I take a spoonful straight. It enters the bloodstream slower than refined sugar, giving you sustained energy rather than a crash. I found a gallon of this at a farm supply store for $12. That is a gallon of liquid mineral insurance that nobody else is looking at. While people are fighting over 5-pound bags of white sugar that offers zero nutrition, I'm securing my family's iron and calcium intake for pennies. Alright, stop what you are doing right now, because the 8th item might be the single most valuable prepping secret I have kept hidden for 3 years. It is ghee. Before you dismiss this thinking that is just fancy butter, let me hit you with something wild. I have a jar of ghee in my stockpile that has been sitting at room temperature for 4 years. 4 years, no refrigeration. And last week, I used it to cook dinner, and it tasted absolutely perfect. Here's something that will blow your mind. Archaeologists in India found sealed containers of ghee that were over 5,000 years old and were still edible. That is not some prepper myth. That is documented history. But here is why most preppers are completely missing this. While everyone is panic buying freeze-dried butter powder for $30 a container, ghee is sitting right there in your grocery store for $12, and it literally lasts forever. Let me tell you about last summer when everything clicked for me. A massive heat wave knocked out power in my area for 2 weeks straight. My neighbor, a great guy and a serious prepper, came knocking on day 5. All his butter had melted into this disgusting puddle. His expensive coconut oil had separated and gone rancid. He was almost in tears. Meanwhile, my ghee was sitting on my counter in 95-degree heat, still golden, still perfect, and still ready to use. And here is what changed my entire prepping strategy. A groundbreaking 2024 study revealed something the prepping community has completely ignored. Ghee has a unique molecular structure that makes it immune to oxidation. Translation, it cannot go rancid. Number 9 is the ultimate answer to the protein problem, and it's called textured vegetable protein, or TVP. Now, I'm a meat eater, I love my steak, but in a long-term survival situation, canned meat runs out, and hunting is
TVP is a dehydrated soy product that looks like little crumbles. It is dirt cheap. I'm talking $2 a pound, and here's the kicker. It is 50% protein by weight. It has zero fat, which means it cannot go rancid. I have a bucket of TVP from 10 years ago that is still perfectly good. But here's the secret to making it edible, because on its own, it tastes like nothing. Remember those bouillon cubes from item number 1? If you rehydrate TVP in water mixed with a beef or chicken bouillon cube, it absorbs that flavor completely. The texture mimics ground beef incredibly well. I have made chili with this for friends who had no idea they were not eating meat. This is lightweight, requires no refrigeration, and is the most cost-effective way to stockpile protein on the planet. While other preppers are spending hundreds of dollars on freeze-dried beef chunks, I am spending $20 for the same amount of protein. You can find it in the bulk bins of health food stores or sometimes in the baking aisle. It is the silent workhorse of my food storage. Here's number 10, and honestly, when I first discovered this, I felt like an idiot for not figuring it out sooner. It is chia seeds. Now, I know what you're thinking, but stay with me, because what I'm about to share will change your entire approach to prepping. Chia seeds were so valuable to the Aztec warriors that they received them as payment. These were not just any seeds, they were literally used as currency because they were that important for survival. And here's why modern preppers need to pay attention. Recent research discovered that chia seeds maintain their impressive omega-3 content far longer than fish oil supplements. We're talking years. And 1 teaspoon of chia seeds contains more omega-3s than an entire serving of salmon. But here's the game changer that nobody talks about. Chia seeds absorb up to 12 times their weight in water. In a survival situation where water is precious, this is absolutely critical. Let me explain why this matters. When you eat chia seeds, they absorb water in your stomach and form this gel. This slows digestion dramatically, which means you feel full way longer and your body has more time to extract nutrition from your food. Last year, I did an experiment. I ate my normal rice and beans breakfast and was hungry again in 3 hours. The next day, I added just 1 tablespoon of chia seeds to the same meal and stayed full for 7 hours. Do you understand what this means in a rationing situation? You can stretch your food supply significantly just by adding chia seeds to every meal. Look, here's the bottom line. While everyone else is fighting over the same tired prepper foods, you now know 10 items that are cheaper, easier to store, more nutritious, and will actually still be available when shortages hit. These are the foods I genuinely keep hidden from other preppers, not because I'm selfish, but because I learned the hard way that the best survival strategy is not following the crowd, it's thinking differently. If this information helped you see prepping from a new angle, smash that like button, subscribe if you want more unconventional survival strategies that actually work, and drop a comment telling me which of these 10 foods you are going to grab first. Stay smart, stay prepared, and I will see you in the next one.